Hello again, everybody. Welcome to a new screencast lecture. We are going to be studying heredity tonight, and with a particular focus on chromosomes, alleles, and Punnett squares. Let's get started with a real quick review about levels of organization. Organisms are going to be the most complex. That would be like you and me. Organisms are made up of organ systems, and those organ systems are made up of organs, and of course, organs are made up of tissues. Like in this case, the heart is made up of cardiac muscle tissue. And then all those little circles there, those are called cells of heredity. And inside, what are the X's? Good question. In fact, I was just about ready to say that. Those X's are going to be chromosomes. And so that brings us to probably wondering what in the world is a chromosome. So let's find out. Here's a drawing of what a chromosome looks like. And of course, we have a definition. So let's go ahead and write that definition down. Chromosomes are structures of DNA that contain an organism's genetic code. And moving on to the next would be DNA. What is DNA? Well, DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. You do not necessarily need to memorize that. And that deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA, are instructions on how to construct proteins. The hereditary information is passed along to you from your parents. If you take a look at a chromosome, you'll see that a chromosome has several different pieces of genetic information, not just one trait. So, like, this whole thing wouldn't be like, hey, you have blue eyes. No, there's going to be several different pieces of information, several different genes that are going to instruct your body on how to make different proteins, like how to make more red blood cells, or how to make or skin cells. And those chromosomes, as we said, are found in the cell's nucleus. Alleles. What are alleles? The definition of allele is that an allele is different forms of a trait that a gene may have. For example, flower color for the pea plants that Gregor Mendel had was purple. This chromosome has an allele for a purple flower, and over here on this side, this is an allele to make a white flower. Some of the terms that we learned in learning about Gregor Mendel would be things like dominant trait, and the dominant trait is the trait that will appear in the offspring. If one of the parents contributes it, it will supersede the recessive trait, so it will kind of cover over the recessive trait, and the recessive trait is a trait that both parents must contribute to the offspring. Otherwise, a dominant trait will supersede it and turn up. The recessive trait is one that is kind of like a hidden trait. So if we have two purple flowers that we breed and the offspring has a white flower, that would be a surprise, and that would indicate that the white flower would be a recessive trait. And all of this goes along with the idea of sexual reproduction. And with sexual reproduction, we have things like this with the mom. The mom's sexual reproductive cells are called what? They are called, that's right, they're called eggs. And mom's genetic code here, this would be like her full set of chromosomes. They're in the sex cells or the haploid cells. You're going to have half of the chromosomes in each of the sex cells. And these things are called haploid cells, and we know that because they have only one half of the original chromosomes. These cells are made of a process. What is that process called? That process is, you should know that that process is meiosis. Sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction, the male provides 50% of the chromosomes, and the female provides the other 50% of the chromosomes. The male sex cell is called the sperm. Now, when the sperm and the egg cell share those chromosomes, combine those chromosomes, the egg is now considered to be fertilized. All right, now let's brings us to a thought about what's called Mendel's laws. Mendel's laws tell me that allele pairs will separate during sex cell formation. So during meiosis, the chromosomes are going to separate, and not only that, those are going to randomly unite at fertilization. So we're going to get a whole bunch of different possibilities. There's not just one type of sex cell. All right, this is important because this allows sexual reproduction to provide genetic diversity to the species. So the random mixture of traits is going to allow a whole bunch of different traits to be possible and allow a whole lot of genetic diversity. So now let's tell us a little story here. We got a story about a young pea plant. And here you see her. She was a white flower. She's a white flowered colored pea plant. And this flower has a chromosome pair that has white flowered colored genes. So here's a chromosome that tells the flower to be white. Here's a chromosome that tells the flower to be white. And we're going to call this plant, we're going to call her Mom. Ta-da! All right. Now, Mom has an allele for white flower color here, and Mom has a allele for white flower colored here. And because Mom has white flower colored alleles for both alleles, we're going to call Mom homozygous. And homozygous means that each allele has the same type for a trait. So this allele is for white flower, this allele is for white flower. They're both for the same color flower, so they are homozygous. And another term for homozygous, sometimes it's called purebred. Here's another flower, and this flower we're going to call Dad. Dad has purple flower color and chromosomes that look like this. So there's a purple allele and there is a white allele. Notice Dad has an allele here that's just one for purple flower color and one allele for white flower color. So we're going to call that heterozygous. Each allele has a different type for a different trait. So Mom was homozygous, Dad is heterozygous. Another term for heterozygous that Gregor Mendel used, he called that hybrid. So Dad is hybrid heterozygous, and Mom is purebred homozygous. Now, this lovely couple, they're going to meet and they're going to fall in love. So here's Dad and here's Mom. And that leads us to reproduction. And during reproduction, the male will give 1/2 of his chromosomes, and the female will give 1/2 of her chromosomes to form a new pair for the offspring. So we're going to have an offspring. So the purple daddy flower, white mommy flower, they're going to have an offspring. Now, what do you think would be the percent chance of giving a white allele? Dad is going to give one of his two alleles for flower color. He could give either this one or this one. What is the percent chance of giving the white allele? Well, it's 50-50. It's either this one or that one. It's either heads or tails. So 50-50. So if Dad gives this allele to the child, and then we go over here and take a look at Mom, Mom can either give this one a white colored flower or this one a white colored flowered allele. What is the percent chance of Mom giving a white colored flower allele? Well, it's 100%, because if this gives this one heads, it's white, tails, it's white. Okay, so here it gives the child the white colored allele, and if Dad gives this one, what color flower is the child going to be? The child is going to be white because it has white flower color. It has white flower color. Would we call this hybrid or purebred? We're going to call this purebred, and it's purebred because both alleles are the same. Real quick review of what just happened. Well, here's Dad, purple flower. Here's Mom, white flower. Dad is heterozygous, purple and white. Mom is homozygous, white and white. Dad could either give the purple allele or the white allele. In this case, gives the white allele. Mom's going to either give white or white, so Mom's always going to give the white allele. And the offspring is white and white. Is the offspring purebred or hybrid? The offspring is purebred because both alleles are the same. Now, what would happen if, instead of giving the white allele, what if Dad gave the purple allele? Well, what is the percent chance of the purple allele being given? Well, it's, again, 50-50. It's either going to be this one or this one. It can be purple or white. So 50% chance of giving the purple allele. Let's say that Dad does give the purple allele. The child gets one purple allele from Dad. The child is going to get one white allele for mom no matter what, because that's all she has. So what is mom's chance of giving a purple allele? It's absolutely no chance at all, because she doesn't have a purple allele. So the child is going to get a white allele. And we take a look at this. Now our child is purple and white. So the offspring is going to be purple. So the child is going to be purple, because purple is the dominant allele for this flower color in this species, and Gregor Mendel figured that out, that in the pea plant that he was growing, purple flower color is dominant. So if the offspring gets even just one allele for purple flower, it's going to supersede, it's going to cover over the allele for white flower, and those white alleles are recessive. Alleles are often written with a letter to represent a particular trait, just to make things a little bit easier. Like, for example, here's dad with a purple allele and a white allele. We're going to call that capital B, because dominant alleles are going to be identified by an uppercase letter, and recessive alleles are going to be written as a lowercase letter. So in this case, lowercase b. So big B, little b. And the big B represents purple flower color allele, and the little b reflects white colored allele. There you go. And you can choose any letter to represent any trait. So, like, for example, color. You might think, well, if it's color, why don't we call it C? Why do you think C would be a bad choice to use for a letter to represent color? Well, here's dad, who's purple, and he has big C and little c. So big C means purple, little c is white, but you don't see that very often, because some letters are pretty hard to distinguish. So like the letter C, big capital C versus lowercase c, they look pretty much the same. And so they're very hard to distinguish between the two. So I do not recommend you doing that. Let's take a look at a new term. What is phenotype? Phenotype is defined as the trait that is displayed in the organism. So if you take a look at dad, here's dad. Dad is phenotype what? And here's a new flower, Bob. Bob is phenotype what? Well, take a look at it. Dad, you look at this flower color, what do we see? Well, we see that dad is purple flower, and we take a look at Bob, and Bob is purple flower. Ta-da! So take a look at mom. What about mom? Mom's phenotype is what? Yep, white. Right? She's a white flower. You look at it, it's a white flower. There you go. That's phenotype. Genotype is a little bit more complicated. Genotype is the actual genetic makeup of the organism. So you can't just take a look at a flower and go, oh, its genotype is this. To figure out the genotype, you actually have to know what genes that the organism has, and those letters form a code. For in this case, for example, we take a look at dad. Dad is purple flower, and it has a purple allele with a white allele, which is recessive. And so we're going to call that big B, little b. The big B is for the purple allele, and the little b is for the white allele, the recessive trait. Bob is purple, purple, so that's actually dominant, dominant. So big B, big B. Mom, let's take a look at mom. What's mom's genotype? Recessive white, recessive white. So we're going to call that little b, little b. What are the possible genotypes for white flowers? Let's take a look at white flowers. It's the only thing you could possibly have is little b, because white flower is recessive. If we have any other color besides white, that white recessive trait is going to get covered over, and the flower itself will not be white. So the only way we can have a white flower with this pea species is that if it's little b, little b. Genotypes for purple flowers. Well, here's dad. Dad's purple, and Bob is purple. So there's actually two different possible genotypes: big B, little b, or big B, big B. Because if it's big B, it's of course going to be purple. So purple, purple is purple. And over here, purple and white, it's still going to be purple, because purple is the dominant gene and white is the recessive gene. So the white gene is going to get covered up. So dad is purple. Punnett squares. Punnett squares are pretty nifty. Let's take a look at what a Punnett square is. A Punnett square will help us to predict the probability of an offspring's genotype and a phenotype for a given mix. So if we're going to pair, here's daddy plant and mommy plant. Daddy plant is green and mommy pea plant is yellow. It shows possible combinations. So we're going to breed yellow mommy with green daddy. So green daddy is recessive. Yellow mommy is dominant recessive. Daddy is always going to either give little y or little y. So in this case, it's always going to give little y. So it's either going to be green or green, which is green. Mommy can either give yellow or recessive green. So dominant yellow or recessive green. So mommy has a 50% chance of giving this. Mommy has a 50% chance of giving this. So our possible mixtures would be yellow and green, yellow or green, this one. This one is this yellow and this green. This one is this yellow and this green. And then over here, we're either going to give, mommy's now giving the green allele, and daddy will give that green allele, and then green allele, green allele. So what percentage of pea plants should be yellow? Remember, yellow is the dominant gene, so if it has yellow at all, it's going to be phenotype yellow. So this one is going to be yellow, this one is going to be yellow, this one's going to be green, this one's going to be green. There is a 50% chance that the offspring should be yellow. Let's try this one. What percentage of flowers should be white? Well, to be able to figure that out, just do the Punnett square. So we have big B, little b versus big B, little b. Here's mommy, here's daddy. Daddy gives big B, mommy gives big B. Take a look over here. It's going to be big B and little b. Over here, it's going to be little b and big B. And over here, it's going to be little b and little b. So what percent chance are we going to have for having a flower that's going to be white? It's going to be 25% chance. Instead of 25% chance, you could also say there's a 1 out of 4 chance. So 1 out of every 4 offspring we should expect to be white. Okay, you're going to need your practice sheet for this. So your Punnett square practice sheet, I gave this to you in class. Get that out. The big B is going to represent purple flower color, which is dominant. The little b is going to represent white flower color, which is going to be the recessive gene. And then what I want you to do is to number the Punnett squares as shown here. So this one's going to be number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6. The answers, I want you to actually fill out the Punnett square. So, like, for example, if I go back to this, like this one, I want you to try to figure this one out on your own, but I'll start you on this one. It's going to be big B, big B. This one's going to be big B, big B. This one's going to be big B, big B. And this one's going to be big B, big B. Okay, so that's what I want you to do. I want you to do all of these, all 6 of them, and go ahead and pause the video here because the answers are going to be on the next slide. So go ahead and pause it and try it on your own, and then we'll check our answers. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. We're back. Here are the answers. All right, I'm just going to leave the answer key up here on the screen, and I'm going to start asking you some questions based on your answers for each of these different crossings. Okay, first of all, these boxes are called what? These boxes are called Punnett squares. The big B represents purple flower color. The little b represents white flower color. Which gene is dominant, and how do you know? The purple color is the dominant gene, and the uppercase big B identifies the dominant gene. The lowercase b, little b, identifies the recessive gene. Let's take a look at cross number 1. Cross number 1, what is the percentage of offspring that should be purple? All of them should be purple, 100%. For cross number 2, what is the percentage of offspring that should be purple? Take a look at cross number 2. There should be 75% of them as purple. For cross number 3, what is the percentage of offspring that should be white? White. 0. There are no white offspring in cross number 3. For cross number 4, what is the percentage of offspring that should be white? 50% of them should be. Half of them should be purple, half should be white. Cross number 5, what is the percentage of offspring that should be hybrid purple? Hybrid means you're going to have big B, little b, and there's 50% of them. What is the percent chance of hybrid white in number 6? That's kind of a trick question. 0. There's 0 chance because white in this case, since white is recessive, it can't be hybrid. So only chance you can have of being white is little b, which is purebred or homozygous. Well, that's all we have for tonight. Hopefully that helped. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments. If you have any comments, especially if they're good, you want to say, hey, you're the best, you're the greatest, that's awesome. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so. Make sure you subscribe. And of course, we have to have Y Guy here to tell us.
Be careful, kids. Bye.
See ya.